Hey, this is Rob Riggle. You're listening to Out of Left Field on the Grueling Truth Network.
Hey guys, that's right. This is Out of Left Field. Graham and Chris back here with you again, part of the Grueling Truth Network, thegruelingtruth.net and at Grueling Truth on Twitter. So glad to be back here with you. So excited, hard to talk, a ton of stuff to get to. Chris, I told you I want to change the name of the show this week. I've decided this week we are not out of left field.
Okay.
We are out of the dugout.
This wouldn't happen to have anything to do with all of the players coming out of the dugout this week.
It sure as hell does. And you know what? On that note, ring the bell and let's put the ball in play on what turned out to be one of the weirdest freaking weeks of baseball that I have seen in quite a while. It was, I don't know, maybe a smidge dirty. A lot confounding and confusing, just really not at all, I think, what either of us expected with what was going on. And let's go ahead and get right to it, man. Your hometown ball club, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Cardinals got into it, which is, I'm not saying that's a surprise they got into it, but I didn't really expect to see a benches clearing incident when a manager came out to argue strike three.
Yeah. I can't honestly say that I'm surprised at what happened either. We are talking about Yadier Molina, a known hothead, a guy who's known for getting in people's faces, and realistically, a guy who's known for getting in the faces of people who are in positions of authority. Tony Lavello is definitely not the most authoritative person he's ever gotten in the face of. You know, he gets in umpires' faces. He has on a couple of occasions. I think the Fagan incident is probably one of the more
Clint Fagan, Rob Drake. There was one I think actually in Milwaukee where it almost like Rob acted like he was probably getting spit on. I'm not saying that Yachty spit on him, but yelling and probably got some spittle. On his face.
Sure.
But yeah, it was. So let's go ahead and put it in perspective. Obviously, Torey Lovullo, the skipper of the Diamondbacks, comes out because Tim Timmons had rung up two Diamondbacks hitters on strike three, the bottom part of the zone. Now, you and I both agree in looking that the first pitch was low. K-Zone showed it was low. We looked, it was low. The second pitch, K-Zone's a bunch of crap, okay? I get it, I'm the umpire, and I'm going to say this, but it is. And the nice thing is I've got you backing me up, and while you might be the homer on the Giants and I might be a little bit homerish on the umpires, it's nice when we can kind of sit back and say without a doubt that, yes, it's wrong. If you look at the K-Zone in the out, I think it was on Ionetta, or not Ionetta, on I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank on who the last one was. But what you end up seeing is that at least on the TV, the zone stops at the hitter's at the top of his knee, which we both know is not what the strike zone is. It's
right
below the hollow of the knee.
Right.
And if you take a piece of paper or whatever, a straight edge, and you go from the hollow of that knee to where the ball is, it was right there, dead center. So Lovullo comes out upset. That's fine. Sure. You know what? Early in the game, you got two guys with backwards K. You don't like it. But he started MFing Yadier Molina. That's where things, I think, went a little bit awry. Called him an MFer twice. Let me rephrase. He referred to Yachty as far as picking up pitches, saying to Timmons, you can't let that mother effer steal strikes. He wasn't pointing out and saying you are this, but use that in a way to kind of, in reference to Yachty and what he was doing. And Yachty said, hey, if you're going to call a guy that, you got to be ready to fight. And Yachty was, and it got heated quickly.
Right. And, you and I have talked about this. We discussed off the air a little bit. I'm frustrated with the idea that Timmons didn't think that it was necessary to chuck Yadier Molina in this situation. I realize that some of the contact that was initiated by Timmons himself trying to get between the two of them and keep them from being able to get to each other. But Yadi knew exactly who he was going to have to get through to get to Lovullo. And you can see Yadi in the video take both of his hands and shove Tim Timmons out of the way to try to get to Torey Lovullo. And in my opinion, that's far too much contact initiated by Yadier Molina for Yadier Molina to stay in the game. Lovullo was going to be gone anyway. Lovullo got thrown out of the game, and he even says after the fact, quote, "I was thrown out of the game for arguing balls and strikes. I want to just set the record straight. That was not arguing anything about pitch framing. Nothing to do with that." Quote, "The reputation that Yadi's earned because he's one of the best in the game for getting balls that are completely out of the zone. Pitch framing is keeping strikes. Balls that are out of the zone and going too far off the edges of the plate was frustrating me."
Right. And the one thing I will say is I've watched the video a few more times since we've talked. I thought that Yadi threw a punch. What you see is that the way that his right arm comes across, he is almost he's aggressively taking his mask and flipping it off.
Right.
He actually never threw a punch at Lovullo. Timmons said in response to this to a beat reporter after the game, quote, "Lovullo made a comment that was aggressive that Yadi overheard, so that's why Yadi reacted the way that he did. I think at that point, Yadi became agitated, which was understandable. So when I turned around, he didn't maybe push me as much as I tried to get in between them. I think it was a natural reaction," end quote. And the tough thing is you see Timmons, as it starts to get heated, try and get in between. Then he's trying to kind of almost get sideways and kind of get his arms outstretched to get them both gone. And at that point, Yadi was pretty much seeing red. He was gone.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying. I still think if it was me, I would have – from the outside looking in, not being able to fully hear everything and hearing the context after it's all said and done and not being able to hear everything that was said there in the moment, the optics of it would make me want to toss Molina. But if what Timmons is saying, and he's been around for a very long time, if he felt that it wasn't warranted, I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt that, hey, this is a veteran catcher, a future Hall of Famer, and with what was being said to him by a second-year manager, he felt that it was, it was kind of apropos at the moment to give Molina a pass. So, it's one of those things that I think Lovullo will offer an apology at some point, but let the dust settle maybe in the next series.
So both Lovullo and Molina were given 1-game suspensions and fines for the incident. Lovullo served his suspension the following Tuesday, when the Diamondbacks were playing the Giants. And Yadier Molina, of course, appealed his suspension. So he actually played his game against Milwaukee on Tuesday. I don't understand. I don't get appealing the suspension. Take the 1 game. It's better than dragging this out and taking the 1-game suspension in a game that might be more important. I mean –
well, see, I disagree on that point because of the way that baseball makes it doable. You appeal until your scheduled off day comes about. Then you drop your appeal. You accept your suspension. Your normal off day becomes a day that you don't play, and then all is right. That's what I think. Granted, I don't think that he believes he deserves a suspension because of the way he was treated. But how often do we see maybe on a getaway day, your number one catcher gets the day off, a chance to kind of rest his legs, kind of have a chance to, get a little – and Yadi's getting long in the tooth. I mean, he is not, going to – he is rounded third base quite a while ago. So I think it's one of those things where you kind of find the day where it's going to be your day of rest and then go ahead and take your suspension that day, which unfortunately is the way that Major League Baseball allows things like that to happen.
Right. Well, and I mean, that's something that we have to live with as fans of the game that don't quite understand how some of these things, why some of these loopholes exist. And so chances are Yadier Molina will pay a fine, but not serve the suspension.
It wouldn't surprise me if they do not get down to a fine, yeah.
Right. So, interesting. I have to talk to you about a certain Japanese baseball player.
Sure.
That I think maybe it's almost time to start preparing a statement of some sort in apology to this.
No, I'm not. I don't need to. I never said anything negative. I have already said that Ichiro Suzuki is by far one of the best Japanese players to ever come out and play Major League Baseball. A five-tool player, a guy who kind of seemed maybe as much as someone didn't like the personal side of him, but hey, he was a guy who was more concerned with getting on base and using his speed to his advantage and trying to be a power guy. Was unselfish.
It's not Ichiro. I'm not talking about Ichiro.
Okay.
I'm talking about a certain Japanese baseball player that you said not derogatory but doubtful remarks about.
I understand that the way it looks right now, at least, that Masahiro Tanaka, he has a 5.19 ERA. He's 2-1 on the year. The Yankees are struggling. Okay, it's no surprise there.
It's not Masahiro Tanaka.
Okay.
Look, let me put it to you like this. How do you feel about 2-0, 2 starts, 2 wins, 13 innings pitched, 18 Ks, a 2.08 ERA, and a whip of .462, a strikeouts per 9 of 9?
All right, look. Okay, I have gone along with the charade long enough. Madison Bumgarner is on the disabled list. Okay, he broke a pinky finger. I'm sorry. It happened. But bringing numbers that are almost video game-like to this show to tell us all how you hope the Giants could have started if he was in the rotation is not what we're about.
No,
so stop.
I'm not talking about Madison Bumgarner. I'm not. As much as I wish I were talking about Madison Bumgarner, I am unfortunately not. What about this? What about 33 plate appearances, 30 at-bats, 11 hits, including a double, a triple, 3 home runs, 11 ribbies, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, a batting average of .367, an on-base percentage of .424, slugging .767 for an OPS of .1191.
Jose Altuve is a great player, and I understand that he's not of Japanese descent, but I mean those are numbers that yes, if you are a guy coming over looking into the future, that's what you aspire.
Graham,
what?
It's not Jose Altuve. Both those pitching numbers and those hitting numbers belong to this guy that I'm trying to talk to you about.
Okay, but I understand that Madison Bumgarner can hit and he can pitch. He's not playing.
You're about to owe Shohei Ohtani an apology for more than one reason.
Who?
Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese guy that the Angels picked up that you said couldn't be a two-way player, or that
that guy
could be a two-way player.
He's playing this year?
Oh, is he playing? Yes, those stat lines both belong to Shohei Ohtani in his first 2 starts, and then also he has started 8 games as designated hitter for Los Angeles Angels. Man, all jokes aside, all fun aside, Shohei Ohtani is killing it right now. Now, it'll be interesting to see if he can keep this up throughout the course of a 162-game season, but
I'm going to be
look
fair.
Like he's the real deal.
He is honestly doing a disservice to the term "stupid starts."
Yeah,
because this is, I mean, this goes beyond. If I was playing one of the MLB The Show games on easy and pitching, I wouldn't be doing this well.
Right.
I know, I've tried.
It does almost look like he has Major League Baseball on easy mode right now.
It does. I mean, and granted, we're going to see things because guys haven't faced him a whole lot yet.
Sure.
I mean, but how often do you see a guy who's a pitcher who's been intentionally walked once? Now, I understand, teams are still looking at how to, at how best to attack him. And I mean, there's not much of a question here that eventually, yes, they are going to find a weakness. But I think what, the scary thing we're seeing, man, is that he has got filthy stuff on that mound. And it's going to go into something that we're going to talk about here in the next week or so as it relates to maybe sort of pace of play, but an epidemic that is kind of taking over the game. And we'll touch on that here in a couple of weeks, guys. But, man, I mean, the numbers that we're seeing from him are absolutely, like you said, it's insane. A 2.08 ERA, 2-0. I mean, Clayton Kershaw isn't even 2-0. He hasn't had a win yet. Given up one home run. All three of his earned runs came in the first game, and he still has pitched two quality starts, a 6-inning, 3-run game in his first game, and seven innings, and no runs in his second game, and he had double-digit strikeouts in his second game. I mean, he's just getting better. It's freaky, and the thing is, I hope we don't see the wear and tear on his arm the way that Tanaka began to show so quickly once he came into the big leagues. He's also about 5 or 6 years younger than Tanaka was when he came over. We haven't seen a guy this young come over and make this big a splash this fast ever. I think
isn't he the youngest Japanese star to come across?
Because I think so.
That big gap, right? What is it, like 6 or 7 years that they have to wait? They have to play in there.
Yeah, normally guys are hitting like maybe mid to late 20s. I mean, yeah, granted it's their physical prime, but they're adjusting to the game in their physical prime.
Right.
I mean, we saw Ichiro adapt quickly. Matsui slowly began to get it, but not like this, and not doing it both ways. We haven't seen numbers like this, since Babe Ruth. He's the first pitcher in the live ball era to do most of the stuff that he's doing.
Right.
And I think the live ball era began in, the 30s?
1920s, yeah. The 1921 season, I think, was the first season of the live ball era.
And that's insane. I mean, we're 3 years away from that being a century ago.
Right. And, the thing is that the Shohei Ohtani as a record, he is in the record books now for being one of 3 people, the other being Babe Ruth and the third being Ken Brett, who have thrown 10-plus strikeout games in the same week that they've homered in 3 consecutive games. So this has happened twice ever. And you have to remember that 100 years ago, there were a lot of pitchers who hit every day.
Right. I mean, the best way I can equate it for younger fans of the game is it was kind of like arena football, where in arena football, a lot of guys will play both sides of the ball because you don't have these huge 53-man rosters. So your quarterback might be a kicker or a safety, whatever it might be. I mean, these guys would go out and pitch their arm off and then come out and swing the bat the next day. And then every 2 or 3 days, it wasn't like they were getting these 5-6 days, in between starts. So yeah, what he is doing is really impressive. I'm not ready to apologize and anoint him yet. Let me go to the All-Star break and see
July.
what he does.
I was going to say July, right?
Yeah.
If he's
Let me get to the All-Star break and see if he's the All-Star game starter. You got it, no problem.
So, and here's the thing. We went back and forth about how this was going to look all season with the Angels and what they were going to do as far as pitching and hitting. And so it looks like they've got a rotation worked out. He's going to pitch He's going to start one day. He won't hit either the day before or the day after he starts. But then he will go 3 or 4 games as a DH, then take that day off. Now, 3 or 4 is going to depend on whether there's a built-in day off for travel or whatever. But 3 or 4 games as a DH, take a day off, pitch, take a day off, 3 or 4 games as a DH. So he's going to be in a heck of a lot of games, and it sounds like that's going to wear him out quickly. But let's not forget that this is exactly what he did in Japan. This is exactly what it looked. And in Japan, he was a position player on his days off as a pitcher.
I think Scioscia is in one of the happiest spots right now, because right now we're sitting in a spot where Albert Pujols, granted he is not the Albert Pujols of old, but he's hitting 282 right now, the 301 on base, 465 slugging. I mean, numbers are gonna go down. But already 3 home runs in, he is, I think, 13 hits shy or something like that of making it to 12 hits shy now of making it to 3,000. By the way, happy Jackie Robinson Day early here on a Sunday as we're doing the show. 42 all around the big leagues. Happy Jackie Robinson Day. Of course, tomorrow, Monday, will be Patriots Day, the annual early Red Sox game as they make their way after the game down to the finish line at the Boston Marathon, which is always one of the best, I think, traditions in baseball. But, what you're going to see is a guy in Pujols who he's trying to get himself healthy. The feet aren't perfect, but, we're starting. I mean, he played 149 games last year. He's played in almost 150 games or more the last 4 seasons from 2014 until this year. So I think what's going to be nice for Scioscia is you can play Pujols at first the majority of the time, but if he's having that, hey, I need that day off, you can pull him off the diamond the day that Ohtani pitches and maybe the days in between. You have Pujols as your DH. You can fit somebody else in there at first. It's why we've seen 9 games at first for Pujols and 7 at DH. It's a great way that you can build him in, the physical rest from being on his feet the entire game at first base while still keeping that Hall of Fame bat in your lineup. It's a great spot right now for Scioscia. No question about it.
Absolutely. I wish I had those problems, to be honest with you.
So do me a favor, Chris. Just do me a favor.
Okay.
Ring the bell. Just ring the bell. Thank you. Because I think it's time that now that we had some nice talk about Ohtani and he's doing some great things, why don't we go ahead and talk about why the Rockies and Padres felt the need to fight and why Luis Perdomo seemed to think that after throwing behind Nolan Arenado, that throwing his leather glove into Arenado's general facial direction was going to do any damage. That is still the best thing to me.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Perdomo's throw was much more on point than Bryce Harper's helmet toss during the Hunter Strickland brawl, but that's an entirely different subject.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Rockies Padres brawl is sort of an enigma to me. I still haven't figured out what Arenado did to get thrown at.
Yeah, like there's no substance to it. It's just he got thrown behind, he got pissed, out he went, boom. But there's looking at the replay though, there is absolutely no question that Perdomo threw at him. Right.
I mean, it was rib high, right at the backside of his body. There's just no way that he wasn't trying to hit him, but I just don't understand what it is. Now, there is some back and forth between these two teams. In their last 7 games, there have been 6 batters hit. And Manuel Margot got hit Tuesday in the ribs. They put him on the DL. And I think that happened, and they just threw at Arenado the next day just because they wanted to throw at someone the next day.
Right.
But, come on, people. When are we going to stop throwing at each other over stupid stuff?
Right. And then it turns into a 5-game suspension for Arenado and Perdomo. Gerardo Parra gets 4 games. Reliever Buddy Ballman gets a 1-game suspension. All those plus A.J. Ellis and Freddie Galvis get a undisclosed fine, as well as Rockies' right-handed pitcher German Marquez.
And Ballman got optioned as a result.
Really?
He got sent back down to AAA as a result. Yeah.
Yeah.
Optioned back to El Paso.
It was. It was a heavy brawl, not quite as heavy as the next one that we'll get into here in a minute. But see, the one thing out of that entire fight that I noticed was the flowing, glistening mullet locks of Charlie Blackmon. There's just something in a day game of baseball that makes you go, ah.
Well, and Charlie Blackmon, of all people on the field, should be the happiest guy there, right? I mean, he did just sign a 6-year extension that might pay him up to $108 million into his career. It's right. Of course, it's a hugely front-loaded extension. He's going to pay him.
I actually like that for the Rockies because of the age he is now and the way he's been producing.
Right.
I love that. I mean, 5th in the MVP voting last year, Silver Sluggers the last 2 years, and All-Star last year. This really goes to the quintessential line of get your money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hugely front-loaded. It's going to pay him $75 million for the first 4 seasons beginning in 2019. Then he'll have a player option for $21 million in 2020 and $10 million in 2023. He'll make $14 this year plus a $2 million signing bonus. And then the next 3 years, he's going to make $63 million, 21 per season for 19, 20, and 21. I think this is a great deal for the club, and I think it's a great deal for Charlie Blackmon. He made some comments to USA Today where he said, quote, "I was a lot more excited about free agency a few months ago than I am now. I think the ice-cold free agency this year will put the fear into anybody, but next year he's going to have to compete with guys like Manny Machado and Bryce Harper for free agency, and that's not going to do anything but hurt him, in my opinion."
Right, and let's not forget there is an addendum to that last year's player option. It is $10 million. However, he can add $8 million to it based on his statistics. So he gets an additional $5 million if he makes 400 plate appearances. Also gets an extra $2 million with a first, second, or third place finish in MVP voting, or an additional $1 million if he lands 4th or 5th. I think this is a great move by the Rockies. They're a young ball club. Blackmon, yes, he is 31 this year, but still in that kind of prime part of his career. You have Arenado, you have Desmond, Trevor Story. We're hoping to see him come back to what he did his rookie year before he got hurt. This is a ball club that you can't just sit back on and wait and see. They're 9-8, sitting second in that division. So it's going to be fun when we see it. Guys, when we come back, we will take you around Major League Baseball, around the standings, who's where, who is surprising the hell out of us. And while we may be ending round 1, don't worry, round 2, the biggest brawl of them all, is on the way. Plus, what in the hell is going on with Giancarlo Stanton? Why is he swinging at baseballs at his chin? All that when we come back here on Out of Left Field. Stay with us.
Hey, Puckheads, this is Patrick.
And Jason.
From the Puck Guys podcast at the Grueling Truth Network, and we're here with one simple message. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making money.
The Grueling Truth has partnered with MyBookie.ag, an industry-leading sportsbook website who reminds you that where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And that's why The Grueling Truth urges you to check out MyBookie.ag.
In addition to the usual thousands of odds, money lines, proposition bets, and futures offered on MyBookie.ag daily, they also have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. So join now, and MyBookie.ag will give you a 50% bonus on your first deposit of up to $3,000 in extra cash. Just enter the promo code TGT50. That's TGT50 to take advantage of this offer. Where do they got to go, Jay?
That is a smart-looking question, Pat. They need to go to visitmybookie.ag, courtesy of the Grueling Truth Network, and enjoy your winning today.
MyBookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid.
And welcome back to Out of Left Field. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Graham and Chris back here with you. And thank you guys for checking out all of our social media pages at OO Left Field on Twitter, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham on Facebook, the Out of Left Field baseball community page as well, and, of course, everything at thegruelingtruth.net. So, Chris, before we ring the bell for the start of round 2, actually, I guess that would be round 3 technically, so we already rang the bell twice. Let's go around the big leagues. Start the American League. Things kind of standing pat in the AL, at least on top. The Red Sox have lost 2 games. Other than that, they're perfect. I mean, no surprise here.
Right.
The Blue Jays sitting in second place. Yankees right at 500. That's the question. We got it, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. The Orioles and the Rays round out the bottom half of that. Nothing really surprising there. Central, everything kind of where we expect. The Twinkies and Indians pretty much kind of going back and forth for 1 and 2, separated by a couple of games here. The Indians have played a few more games in Minnesota. The weather has been absolutely insane this year. I know it's kind of like, who would be talking about the weather? But you look at how many games have been postponed for teams like the Twins, for teams like the Tigers and the White Sox. Right. They're 3, 4, 5 games behind in some spots because of just how bad the weather has been. The White Sox, the Tigers, and the Royals round out the bottom of the Central. They're all below 500. It's probably going to stay that way. AL West, it's going to be fun. The Los Angeles Angels, 13 wins so far. I mean, just absolutely insane. They're on top of that division. The Astros right behind, a couple games back. They're going to get it working. The Angels are on a hot streak right now. I don't think they're going to go quite this flaming forward, but that's going to be a real fun battle to watch. The Mariners sitting just a little bit behind in third place, but they're in position to kind of be a spoiler, be someone who has a hand in that AL West. Should be one of the more fun divisions to watch, depending on what the Yankees can do. I don't really expect the Blue Jays to stay, in second place as they are. But man, if the Yankees can't turn it around and get some consistency going offensively, it could be that way. The Athletics and the Rangers round out the bottom of the American League West. On the flip side, the National League East, what in the world is happening?
Well, what's happening is we're getting a view of everything that the Mets have been supposed to be for the last 4 years. And they're killing it. I mean, when I say killing it, they're 12-2.
Right.
And they're just on a tear, an absolute tear. Today's game marks 9 in a row for them. Today being Sunday, for those of you listening to the recording of this broadcast later on, today's game marks 9 in a row for them. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And the big thing is you can't beat them. They are undefeated away and 6-2 at home. Both of their losses coming at home, but to be undefeated on the road at this point, even at this point in the season, is a big deal for any team. And the Mets are just getting it done. The biggest surprise, I think, for me is the Phils.
I'll give you one thing to think about, because I promise you we're going to come back to this topic here in the next couple of months. If the Mets are sitting on top or damn close to it, what happens to Matt Harvey?
I think he goes away.
You still think they'll trade him?
Yes. I think they trade him because if the Mets are still on top at the deadline, then unless Matt Harvey is a significant part of them being on top, I don't see them hanging on to him if they can get rid of him. And if he's doing well, strike while the iron's hot. If he's doing reasonably well, strike while the iron's hot, get rid of Matt Harvey, get everything you can get back for him, and let him be somebody else's problem when he really tanks. And we are going to come back to this. You know we are, because one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to keep winning or they're not.
Right.
And if Noah Syndergaard's performance today is any indication of that, I mean, the guy struck out 11, but he struck out 8 in a row.
This team is much more offensively powerful than we thought they would be. And I will tell you right now, I think one of the biggest reasons why I'm not trying to be overdramatic or do the whole overreaction thing. But the fact that the Mets are 12-2 and the Indians are sitting back, a couple of games behind the Twinkies. Jay Bruce was a big loss for them, as was Carlos Santana. Who is he playing for? Who you just mentioned, the Phillies, 2 big bats that the Tribe lost, now playing on 2 different teams in the NL East, and those 2 teams are sitting on top of their divisions.
Right, and so the Phils are the surprise for me. It looks like they've managed to find a way around their manager, or put him back into his place. The Braves are another sort of surprise team, sitting in 3rd place.
Had a really good series against the Cubs.
Right.
They got a big lead right now. I think they're like 9-2. So we'll see what happens with that lead. Hopefully they don't blow it, but it's the Braves.
Right.
You never know what can happen. And the Marlins, the Marlins AA affiliate in Jacksonville drew more fans for their home opener than the pro club did on the same day. That's how well the Marlins are playing.
But the biggest surprise for me is the Washington Nationals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's under 500, not really sure. It seems like things just aren't clicking in the way that we have seen in the past. Scherzer is still Scherzer, still pitching the way that we expect him to, but for whatever reason, Adam Eaton goes to the DL. Bryce Harper is still playing like he is an MVP this year. He is pitching hitting absolutely fantastic. But it's a question of, can this team kind of get back to a level of consistency? They have quite a few guys that are hitting, high 2s up into the 3s. Matt Wieters even hitting 250. How rare is that for him?
Right.
Adam Eaton was at 345 prior to going to the DL. Bryce Harper hitting 300. He's on pace for, I think, another MVP caliber year. Anthony Rendon having himself a good year. What I think is concerning right now are the guys like Trey Turner hitting 203. Ryan Zimmerman hitting 122. The guys that you are kind of expecting to always be, we saw the big bats last year, and you're wanting those guys to do the same thing again this year.
Right.
We just aren't seeing it yet.
Right. And so the question mark for me is going to be to see if we can get any consistency out of this Nationals lineup. The pitching has been good. It hasn't been as lights out as you wanted it to be, with the obvious exception of Max Scherzer, who K'd 10 in his last outing. But the NL Central is also a surprising, sort of a surprise. The Pirates sitting on top of the Central. And it's not even close. They're 2 games ahead. I mean, this early, 2 games is a lot.
Right.
They're 2 games up on the Cardinals, and the Cubbies sitting at 500. 3 games back of them. The Brewers also sitting at 500. And then the Cincinnati Reds are, exactly
their year's over. So, it's a 4-team race in the Central.
Right.
No, I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be able to hold on to this. I'm still not sure that they're going to be a playoff team.
Well, all it takes is one big name injury, right?
Yeah, I mean, but what's impressive is you have guys like Marte, Harrison coming back, but even with the loss of McCutchen, the loss of Cole, still 11-4, they're finding a way to win. They're an inspired group right now, and I mean, having been a player, having been a coach, an inspired group is a scary group.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's when you just want to go, yes, just stay away. I don't want any part of that. But there's always going to be hope in Clint Hurdle's, managing a ball club. The Cardinals, we'll see, 9-7. I'm surprised right now. I don't have a lot of faith in them. I think, Yelich was hurt. He's back. I think you're going to see Milwaukee finally kind of get their gel together with Kane and Yelich in the lineup. The Cubs are going to be fine. Yu Darvish is still a wild card. He is not we've seen an outing here that was okay, an outing that was really, really bad. I still think the Cubs will, should get on their horse. They should still win that division. But man, that NL West, that one's no joke. I mean,
right.
How in the world are the Dodgers sitting on the bottom of that division?
And not just sitting on the bottom of that division, but sitting on the bottom of that division below the Padres.
Yeah.
And the Giants. And, of course, the Diamondbacks and Rockies at the top of that division. The Diamondbacks in the lead for now.
I'm not going to lie. The disgust with which you just said they're below the Giants just that gave me a really deep-bellied chuckle.
Well, listen. The Giants are playing with no big-name starters. None. Cueto's on the DL, though he is expected to start Tuesday at Arizona. But Cueto's on the DL. Mad Bum's going to be out for 6 to 8. You got the Shark who's out. I mean, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel for major league starters right now, and their 3 big names are on the disabled list. So you don't expect them to be anywhere near 500 baseball, and they're not. They're really not close. I mean, they're at 460 something. They're playing 460s baseball right now,
right?
At 6 and 7, but or 6 and 8, I think they are after today's game,
right?
But the Dodgers just can't seem to buy a win for Clayton Kershaw, who, by the way, has a sub-2 ERA and still cannot seem to buy a win.
Exactly. That's the moment where you look and you go, okay, so Clayton Kershaw has a 1.73 ERA, and something's not right here. But, I mean, the weird thing is you've got guys, Rich Hill is what's really hurting. An ERA at 6. Alex Wood, 5. Hyunjin Ryu, hey, he's sub-3. Kenta Maeda, sub-3. There is just, even with decently high batting averages and guys like Grandal hitting 359, Utley at 333, Bellinger 309, Kemp.
The problem is that
there's no Justin Turner.
Productive batting going on.
Exactly.
And the long ball's just not there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at there's only one, two. I'm looking at this. Only 3 players on this roster that have more than 1 home run. Grandal has 2, Bellinger has 2, and Chris Taylor has 3. And granted, you got to keep in mind they're still without Justin Turner, who's a big part of that offense. Right. He is the piece you have to either work around, which makes guys like Bellinger better, makes guys like Grandal at least a little bit more productive, makes Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor should make them better. So once he comes back, I don't think either of us expected the injury to Turner to be as big. We knew it was going to be an issue, but I think we both thought they were still going to be able to get onto a decent roll without him. And right now, it's just not happening that way. I mean, the Diamondbacks are, sitting at what is it? They're sitting at 11-3. I mean, they're a good ball club, and if they find a bat, I mean, yeah, it hurts not having JD Martinez there, but if you can go ahead and keep this kind of run and find yourself a bat come deadline time when you need it, man, don't sleep on this Arizona team. There is definitely something there that could make for, it's ironic as I sit here thinking about it. We're talking about how crazy it is that we don't have these teams already kind of solidifying themselves, yet that's the best part, because now we actually don't have teams solidifying themselves, right? Like we're going to have a season that's back and forth and up and down, ebb and flow. We're actually going to have baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, except when you take out teams like the Rangers, the Marlins, and the Reds, who are all 6, 7, 8 games back of their divisions. All these other divisions are pretty competitive within 5 or 6 games of each other, 4 or 5 games of each other. And that's going to be fun to watch if we can maintain in 3 or 4 of the division, maybe even 5 out of the 6 divisions, right? If we can maintain 3 or 4 teams per division that are separated by 3 games for this season, it's going to be so much fun to watch come wild card time, the wild card hunting time.
Yes, and it's going to make that wild card even more enjoyable. I mean, we saw it in the NBA this year. We had a game 83. The Nuggets and the Timberwolves had a play-in game. Could we possibly see a play-in game? Hey, I mean, it's way too early to definitively say definitely, but there is a good possibility. Guys, I forgot to mention this before we move on. I learned something this weekend that I didn't quite understand. So over the course of my life, I have come to realize that, not to get sad here, I wish my father was still alive.
Sure.
Because I used to give him massive amounts of grief over the fact that he kind of tried to keep the long hair thing going, but it was just a nice little chrome dome shindig going up top. And I have come to realize that living in Florida, I would go to the beach, which I do very rarely. If I'm outside, normally I have a ball cap on because I'm umpiring. And when I realized I sunburned the top of my head because my hair was thinning, I knew he would want to just give me a good hearty laugh. But I've come to understand that, you know what? Hair's just not really my thing. I've got some, it's there, but, I can't do much with it. But there are those among us who are still trying to defeat the wispy hairs that adorn our heads, Chris. And I mentioned this.
It's not as wispy as you're making it out.
So I found out that you have made a bet with a friend.
God, here comes the bet.
That you will not cut your hair for a year, starting from this past March until next March.
Right.
And if you succeed,
and to be fair, I actually haven't had a haircut since January.
Yeah,
but yes, beginning
you make $500.
Yes.
So here's what we're gonna do. Now to be fair, the explanation was, and I am now quoting here, folks. So please appreciate the hilarity of this quote as my wife did. While Chris cannot have clippers touch his head, he can go to the barber and have it trimmed in case it gets too, and I quote here, rowdy. In case the wispy hairs get too rowdy, he can go ahead and trim them on back.
I can.
So
I can trim.
Because we are a show for you. Out of Left Field is all about you guys and maybe a little bit about us. I have made the executive decision, mainly because I'm the one who asked Chris to come on the show with me, that we are going to give you a monthly update on the do. So we're going to, on our social media pages, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham on Facebook and at OO Left Field on Twitter, we will put a picture at the beginning of every month of just what is actually happening on top of Chris Furry's dome. So you're welcome. Enjoy it.
Now,
as I say this, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I get to comb my hair for these pictures, right? I'm not going to take pictures of my hair just sticking out at all angles.
Well, I mean, see, here's the thing. I have to see you do the show like that, so I feel like the listener should have to.
Excuse me, my hair is combed.
Because you had to work today. You had to go in. You had to go into the school. You're going to do some grading. So what? You're not going to walk in there looking slobbish. You're going to go ahead and square it away.
No, but I could have worn a hat, and I chose not to.
But if we do the show on a Saturday, I've got to see it in all of its just front floppy glory. Okay.
Oh God.
So
I'm not taking pictures like that. I'll take pictures of my hair with my hair combed.
You know what? That's fine. Do it as you want. I'll just get a picture of the president's hair like in the wind, and I'll just Photoshop it. So, guys, see, you can't see this, but right now Chris is looking at me like he's going to ring the bell. So, you know what, Chris? Ring the bell. But instead of fighting me, let's just talk about the Red Sox-Yankees brawl, because it really can't be a baseball season yet until we finally discuss the fact that there has to be a fight between the two teams that hate each other the most in the big leagues, and that is the Yanks and the Bo Sox. This one is a little bit interesting. I mean, Tyler Austin goes for a hard slide into second. No doubt cleated the back of Brock Holt's leg. I mean,
right.
Cold night, metal spikes right up into the meat of the calf, right, just thankfully above the ankle and the Achilles. And it turned out that Joe Kelly, who is a very hard-throwing right-hander, nearing triple digits, decided, you know what? You kind of ticked me off.
Yep.
So I'm going to plunk you one. And there's one thing when guys act like, man, I didn't do it on purpose. Oh, my gosh. There was something better when Joe Kelly, glasses and all, drops his glove and just like, let's go.
Yep.
Invites him out to his happy space.
The come-on gesture and everything. He was like, all right, come on.
Yep. Because now the best part is this. There's no question, hey, it got away from me. No.
I hit him.
I hit him on purpose. I purposely bruised him. Come on, sweet cheeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And look, we've had this conversation 100 times. There's really no need to beat a dead horse. I don't like the practice of plunking batters for showing up pitchers. I don't like the practice of plunking batters for, breaking unwritten rules of the game. But you go spikes up into somebody's leg, you're going to wear one. I mean,
that's exchanging BS right there.
We're exchanging possible injury for possible injury at this point.
Sure.
Now, do I like the idea? No, because I don't want to wear one. But did Tyler Austin deserve to get hit in the ribs with a fastball? Yeah, he did. And and he got one. He got a heater right in the ribs, right in the back, really. And
I'm just going to tell you this right now. There may be no better time in the history of our show than right then for you have used the term damn Skippy. I'm just saying, like we just missed an ample opportunity to use damn Skippy on the show.
I'll keep it in mind for the next time an opportunity presents itself.
Damn Skippy.
Damn Skippy. But good on Joe Kelly for hitting Tyler Austin and not somebody else. Let it go until Austin gets back up and then put one in his back. I like it. I mean, I don't like it, but
right
in this context, I like it. Austin deserved to take one, and he did. But that was the signal.
The most.
What's that?
How calm Aaron Judge looked in the middle of that.
Yeah, that's terrifying because Aaron Judge is enormous.
Yeah.
And you don't want the biggest, strongest guy. Well, I mean, Giancarlo Stanton's a big, strong dude too, but you don't want like the biggest professional basketball player height looking guy in the lineup silently just watching and making sure that he doesn't need to take the opportunity to murder someone on the field whenever it presents itself?
See, to me, minus the obvious body girth difference, it was kind of the idea of Swiatowski just kind of walking on out there, picking up somebody by their head and just marching them back to the dugout, from along the yard, and then, in the middle of the fight, just looking at someone like, he broke my nose.
A big unhappy but very calm Aaron Judge.
Didn't say a word. His expression was stoic. It was just,
and all he really did was stand in between the two of them.
Yeah, yep, I'm here. Which, I mean, to be fair, if that's the case, I really feel like at that point, I'm sorry to do this. Does that mean that after the infraction that Tyler Austin committed, in the middle of all of that, he was the judge, Joe Kelly was the jury and the executioner? I'm sorry to pick such low-hanging fruit.
The funny thing is that when he stepped in between the two of them, the look on his face was, I don't know what you're so mad about. You earned that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was something judgy about it.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, yep, Kelly got his swing in. We're all here. Bang the gavel. All right, order.
Austin's in the back like, screw you for judging me.
Yeah. But you know what? This was a big moment, not just for these players. These were two big moments for Alex Cora and Aaron Boone of the Sox and the Yankees, respectively, as new managers, first-time managers in the big leagues in a heated rivalry game, finally kind of coming to a head. Yes, they played each other in spring training. Who gives a rip? Spring training is, end of the day, it's a bunch of guys who were in the minor leagues playing each other, for the last half of the game. This was the first time when two guys who played for those teams remembered those rivalries almost a decade ago are now in it, and they were there. And it's one of those, hey, I'm going to back my guys. Boone said that, there was nothing dirty about what Austin did, kind of just a Bush League move by Kelly to go ahead and throw it. Boone said nothing remotely dirty about it. GM Brian Cashman followed, saying there was no reason for fisticuffs to happen based on that slide.
Yeah, I disagree.
Right.
You put your spikes in my leg, and you and me are probably going to box.
Exactly.
But so we had a fight over a dirty slide. We had a fight over the obvious plunking of the guy who did the slide. But I feel like there was a fight missing.
Okay.
And that fight is all of the fight in Giancarlo Stanton's game. It's just gone. I don't know what Stanton's issue is. I don't know why he's having what is now his worst start of his career.
Yeah, easily. Definitely, yeah.
In fact, I have the numbers here. The last start that he had that was anywhere near this bad was in 2016 when he hit 252 May 2016 when he went through 22 games and hit 173. That was the worst month of his entire career. And he did turn it around. That July, he hit 305 with 7 home runs in 25 games and just struck out only 27% of the time, which he's at about 50 right now. He's got 25 strikeouts and 59 at-bats, and that's just not acceptable. You can't have Giancarlo Stanton going up there and just corkscrewing himself into the ground at everything he sees, especially at things that are brushing his collarbone.
Yeah. He is if you want to see the dictionary definition of pressing, watch Stanton's at bats, especially against Chris Sale. I think it was the game, might have been the game Friday. I think it was Friday or Thursday. I can't remember exactly. But, I mean, that was – I mean, you see Sale kind of work down. He gets him to swing, and he's swinging. He's missing low. Swings under a ball, top of the zone. Like, okay, well, hey, if you're going for it. He rides one up past the letters. Stanton gives it a big hack, misses the ball by a good 2 or 3 inches. The problem is right now, only guy that's actually hitting – I mean, you have Aaron Judge hitting 340,
right?
But he has 17 strikeouts.
Right.
The best guy right now, and I was talking to a guy today about this, the best guy all around on that team is Didi Gregorius. He's hitting 311, on base of 433, slugging 689, best slugging percentage on that ball club, second best on base, just behind Judge. He has a 1.122 OPS, best by almost 100 points over Aaron Judge. But the thing is, 3 strikeouts, 11 walks. He's snagged 2 bags. He's driven in 13, the most ribbies on that ball club, tied for the most home runs on that ball club with 3. He's got a triple, 6 doubles, most doubles on that ball club, and 14 hits. He's 4 hits behind Aaron Judge. You know what? I'm sorry. I will take 311. Even though you're hitting 30 points lower, I will take what Gregorius is giving me because at the end of the day, yeah, you might have 4 fewer hits than Judge, but that's because now, you're probably pitching around Gregorius because of how good he's hitting. Stanton's hitting 220. Sanchez hitting 140, man. 140. 10 strikeouts and 51 plate appearances.
And so when you look at Giancarlo Stanton's career, he historically has slow starts.
Right.
But so if you look at his career, March and April, his batting average is somewhere around 252. The rest of the year, he hits about 271. His OPS is around 835 in March and April. The rest of the year, it's around 928. His strikeout percentage is around 30 in April, around 27 in the rest of the season. 27%, by the way, is still astronomical for a strikeout ratio.
Right.
Or strikeout percentage.
Right.
But this is by far his worst start, his worst March, April, because you're talking about a 220 batting average, an OPS under 8, under 800,
right,
and a strikeout percentage rapidly approaching 50%. And that is a slump that is going to take a long time to dig out of. And to be honest, when you compare a guy like Giancarlo Stanton to a similar ball player who, granted, has a lot more time in the league in Albert Pujols, the same type of player, right? Big name, big bat, the kind of guy you expect to really just hit the ball a ton. Albert Pujols has 1,156 strikeouts in his career.
Right.
In his 18-year career.
I know the number you're about to give, and it's not what you want to hear. Just as a fan of the game.
Giancarlo Stanton has 9 more career strikeouts at 1,165 in 9 years than Albert Pujols, another big bat, a 600 club member, right? So don't think that he doesn't hit the long ball.
Right.
12 hits away from a 3,000 hit club, so don't think he doesn't swing the bat. Has 9 more career strikeouts than Albert Pujols in half the time.
We are looking at a generation now of 2,000 to 3,000 strikeouts in a career. And I teased this earlier, and I'll go ahead and ask it now. I don't want an answer. I want this to be food for thought for everybody listening. And, hey, if you have an idea, have an answer, tweet us. Shoot us a message at OO Left Field on Twitter, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham on Facebook, or email us, ooleftfield@gmail.com. Is it time to lower the mound? It's not without merit. It is not a new idea. It's happened before. But except for 2015 where the strikeout percentage stayed pat, the the percentage of plate appearances that end in either strikeouts or walks are dramatically increasing every year, which means that almost half of the plate appearances that we watch end with the ball not being put in play. So is it time to lower the mound, make it a more even playing field? Something to think about. Let us know. We will discuss that coming up here in the next several weeks. Man, you're right. It is, and it's not just Stanton. The entire ball club is struggling. I mean that pitching staff. Luis Severino right now has the lowest ERA at a 3.5. Tanaka's at a 5.19. Sonny Gray is at a 6.92. Sabathia is at a 4 and on the DL. But that bullpen was supposed to be the anchor of that entire team. And you've got guys like David Robertson with a 4.15 ERA. Tommy Canley, 6.14. Dellin Betances, 8.1. That needs to get figured out. He is the linchpin to that rotation. I don't care what you say about Chapman. Chapman's hit is at 2.57. That's great. 2 saves.
But 2.57 is high for Chapman too.
It is. But at the same time, you got to wonder. I mean, he's coming. It's 7 innings. He's been in 7 games. Basically, he's pitched in the 9th. Hasn't had a decision yet. He's given up 4 hits, 2 runs. Betances in 6 2/3 innings, 10 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 long balls, 3 walks, and 12 Ks. So to me, he is the key to making this work, because without being able to have Robertson and or Betances to make your 7-8 to push to Chapman, you're not going to have that. And right now, they're having to lean on a lot of these bullpen guys because they're not getting a lot of run support because of the lack of offensive production. So, they're at a point now where they're going to have to work out of their struggles. Yeah. Just a matter of how fast they do or how fast they can.
And how hard they can push. I mean,
and there's no guarantee it's going to happen. It could be one of those years where you underachieve. And I hope it's not. Because I think baseball, and I hate to say it, I know my dad hates it, but baseball is better when the Yankees are relevant. When you have a villain to hate, the game is better. It's that way in any sport. When you have someone to root against, as much as having someone to root for, it makes the game better.
Right. Everybody loves to hate the Lakers, but the Lakers are not a relevant team right now. So hating the Lakers doesn't mean anything. So they've turned that hate to other teams. But basketball, in my opinion, is better when you have the Lakers around and relevant. Right.
Like right now, it's great. Beginning of the season, Stanton struggles, you point and laugh. It was the same way when LeBron went to the Heat. They struggled. They didn't win their first championship. Everyone pointed and laughed. Then it was, okay, you're there. Is something going to happen? And then he won. Then he won 2 straight titles. With this, okay, Stanton's having his hard time. That's great. Now it's time to say, okay, let's see the Bash Brothers come out. Let's see what happens. Now let's see guys actually have to work around this lineup, work around these 3 or 4 guys. And it is way too early to give the death sentence or whatever. I hope that it does come back and that they're able to get it fixed.
Let's not forget that Stanton is currently holding 2 platinum sombreros.
Yeah.
2 5-strikeout games.
First player, I believe, in history, definitely the first player in the live ball era, to have 2 games in which he had 5 strikeouts in each game and never had a hit. An 0 for 5 and an 0 for 7 game in those 2. We have seen the Big Apple chew up and spit out a lot of good, great players. Is Stanton going to be the next victim? We have the rest of the year to find out. Chris, great show, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Love doing the show with you. Enjoy another week of baseball. Hopefully the weather's going to clear up. We're not going to have any more cancellations. Hopefully your team stays on the right path. And if your season's already over, I'm sorry. Just, kind of happens. 2 weeks away, we get our first picture of Chris's hair. Guys, look forward to it. Leave all the fun comments you want because I want to read them. and I'll probably message you back and just, maybe a little clapping emoji and appreciation for the grief. If you compliment the hair, I'm just going to block you. Just kidding. Send your comments. Have some fun. We love the interaction. We're excited to be here with you every week. For Chris, I'm Graham. For all of us here at the Grueling Truth Network, thanks so much for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great rest of your baseball week, guys.